Hello, my name is Jules Hilliard, and I'm the CEO of Secure Block Tech. Welcome to the second in our podcast series, Enterprise Blockchain Meets Cybersecurity. Quick personal note, you probably see the blue balloons in the background. It is a boy, my first child, so we're very excited about that. Here we've realized there are many great podcasts and resources to understand cryptocurrencies, digital assets, Bitcoin, and the like. So we're going to continue to discuss how blockchain affects application and network architecture, as well as our favorite, how blockchain will impact the future of cybersecurity as we know it. But before we do, I'm going to do a quick shameless plug like always. I founded SBT in 2017 and brought in a great team, co-founders of the usual suspects from my Rolodex, veteran enterprise technologists that have been focused on the adoption and utilization of blockchain technology by the enterprise. We built the first of its kind enterprise-grade BOC, or Blockchain Operations Center. You already know the importance of a NOC and a SOC for today's dynamic IT networks. The need for a BOC is here, and we're here to provide the solution to the market with our core focus: stimulate mass adoption of blockchain technology. Our BOC is a centralized management console that allows you to develop, deploy, and manage all of your blockchains and dApps from one single pane of glass. Monitoring, analytics, security, and optimization are the core of our technology stack. Today, we have a couple of doozies of topics for you. First, we're going to talk about blockchain and AI. They are great on their own, but together, this topic always makes me think of that old Reese's commercial with peanut butter and chocolate. From there, we're going to jump right in with DevOps and DevOps security, DevSecOps, as you've heard the term. So we've got great stuff. Joining me today to explore these great topics, I have two of my most esteemed colleagues and good friends, Joel Semengen, our CISO, and John Hooks, our CAIO. How are you guys doing?
Good, Jules.
Yeah, we're doing well, Jules. Thank you.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Thanks for taking the time today. All right, segment one, let's jump right in with AI and blockchain. This topic is tossed around more than a pigskin on Sunday. So let's jump in with our resident Jeff Bezos lookalike, Mr. John Hooks. John, can AI and blockchain work together? Some people think they are two unrelated technologies. Can you jump in and talk to us about this topic?
Yeah, absolutely. So machine learning and blockchain are what computer scientists like ourselves would call orthogonal concepts. That means they exist independent of each other. That being said, machine learning explores the study and construction of algorithms that can learn from and make predictions on data, and a blockchain is really a distributed database that enables the creation of an open distributed ledger that can record the transactions in a permanent way. So the two things may sound different, like peanut butter and chocolate, but when you put them together, they're an unbeatable combination. So one area where the two technologies could intersect in a rather obvious way based on traditional application computing models is in the mining of data patterns, where that data is created as part of a solution that uses blockchain, perhaps even data in the blockchain database itself. Consider a blockchain-based store for an Internet of Things application that records sensor data from millions of sensors. A machine learning application could infer interesting patterns from the usage of that data, right? So the above example I just gave is when the machine learning solution operates, quote, out of the band from the blockchain solution. That is when its operations are decoupled from the operations of the blockchain application. In the future, and we're hoping that the products we're developing do this may change with the introduction of what we call in-band machine learning algorithms that, for example, are involved before a blockchain store is completed an operation, to make it memorialized or put it on the chain permanently and unmutable, right, or immutable. So modern, or what I call post-Bitcoin blockchain solutions, are designed to execute that code we call contracts, or smart contracts, which are really stored procedures, and that's really when they trigger the blockchain platform to identify an interesting event. So in that regard, as I said, machine learning models can be applied to anything that contains a vast amount of data. Thus, blockchain and machine learning can certainly be combined.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I want to turn it over here to Joel, who's also known internally as my twin, for those of you that are old enough to remember the movie Twins. Do you mind jumping in and telling the audience what your take on AI and blockchain working together? You want to talk a little bit about this as well?
Yes, thanks, Jules. And that's a great kickoff for this session, John. As this topic has been tossed around, and I've had numerous conversations with some business and colleagues as well. So to what John just mentioned, the convergence of AI technology and blockchain technology will basically revolutionize the business operations. The outcome of this convergence basically will bring positive disruption to a lot of the organizations. And just to point out some of the things, it will bring a good competitive edge for the organization. What that means, the convergence will hopefully result in positive impact against the business competitors and anything that their business is working towards getting positive impact in its industry. Another thing that it will also cause is increased efficiency. With AI and blockchain, there will be considerable cost savings that expectations that cost savings in running the business and operations will be impacted to the favor of the organization. And most importantly, there will be a stronger security posture that would be absorbed in the convergence of AI and blockchain. There will be perceived, expected, and stronger protection from cyber incidents and increased posture in meeting the organization's compliance to industry and regulatory requirements. And additionally, there would also hopefully be potential revenue growth, which this should lead to a positive impact on the organization's bottom line. And I want to just share real quick to add to what John just mentioned. I read in an article recently about this topic, and quote, it says, blockchain and AI are the two extreme sides of technology spectrum. One fostering centralized intelligence on closed data platforms, the other promoting decentralized applications in an open data environment. However, if we find an intelligent way to make them working together, the total positive externalities could be amplified in a blink. So that's my take. Jules?
Absolutely, definitely. A couple of great takes. I mean, as you both know, as part of our vision early on was utilizing AI to strengthen the fundamental functionality of blockchain. You can learn more on our website, on our BI node, business intelligence node, where we will be utilizing AI to provide a higher level of intelligence and functionality for the future of blockchain networks and applications. Let's take a little look at maybe a step back or step forward. I don't really know which one this is. But another big motivation for us in building Overwatch and jumping into the game was blockchain and DevOps and DevSecOps as we know it. You know, we saw a big, just a train wreck, if you will, of what was happening in DevOps with blockchain coming to the scene. Just complete lack of visibility, a lack of intelligence, and a very complicated, ecosystem and architecture. So, John, we have many in-depth discussions internally around the evolution of DevOps and the addition of DevSecOps and as it pertains to blockchain. If you don't mind, how about you share with our listeners your thoughts on this evolutionary process as you see it?
Yeah, sure, Jules. So yeah, you hit the nail on the head as usual that, the whole world's changing. We have different methodologies that we've been using throughout, the beginning of developing code. The latest is using methodologies like Agile, et cetera. But still, when you're developing tools to develop code, you need to make sure that there's security built in. And while that was always the case, and I can show in a slide in a minute how that works or has worked in the past, now we have two dynamics going on in the world of development and also deployment into an application environment like a cloud. One is the notion of continuous delivery, right? So used to be in the old days, you'd send a note out to your clients in the client server environment, say, hey, by the way, the system is going to be unavailable from midnight on Saturday night to Sunday night at 12 p.m., right? And so the whole system came down. You sent out your upgrade, your new patches, et cetera, and the system came up and hopefully worked, right? Now we have what's called continuous delivery, where things are fed into the cloud environment, so they're seamless, and you as the user don't really see that behind the scenes all this additional code or these patches for security, et cetera, are being kind of updated in the background. That being said, the way we need to make sure that's happening correctly or being aware of when it needs to be done is through continuous monitoring. So you have continuous deployment and you have continuous monitoring. Both those things are facilitated by AI-driven machine language algorithms that are triggered at some point to either detect an anomaly that needs to be patched or make sure that all the pieces in the supply chain are lined up properly and can be automated to do it. Because again, human involvement, the human in the loop, only causes downtime, right? So I'll show a couple slides here to kind of give you an idea. So again, remember the smart contract, which we really are going to call stored procedures. So the word contract is legalese, and it really doesn't necessarily say what's happening. But if you automate these stored procedures in the system, then they could be deployed at the appropriate time. So, hold on. Let me see if I can get my screen up here.
Absolutely. Take your time.
Okay.
I think I'm being attacked by a couple balloons here while you're doing that.
It's alive.
It's alive.
Yeah. Congratulations, by the way, Jules.
Thank you. All to my wonderful wife, Imani. She's fantastic and very excited. We're both first timers. So.
All right.
Thank goodness for Google. I don't know how they did it without it.
Okay, as my cloud-based PowerPoint slide loads slowly on my machine, and you'll see not responding in the upper left-hand corner, I'm going to go through a couple slides to kind of talk about what we were just discussing. So I threw in an obligatory slide at the beginning that says, hey, look, we're in the process now of taking AI and the blockchain and combining it into what are called DApps, right? Blockchain applications. And in that regard, then, we're really building robots. And again, this particular individual, David Birch, who's well known in the industry of blockchain in technology, especially in financial services, somebody will be rich beyond all dreams of avarice by building a robot that is an automated script that will write smart contracts. So these smart contracts are, as I said, stored procedures will be kicked off or managed by AI, machine learning driven systems, right? So that's one of the areas that we see that becoming much more prevalent, as I mentioned before, is in the DevSecOps. So again, let's just go through what used to be the old school model and the default model used still by a lot of enterprises to kind of figure out what they need to do during DevOps. During the DevOps cycle shown here, we had various security controls that you applied at the point you were at that particular moment. Like as you were coding, you made sure the code was solid, didn't have any bugs, etc. And then when you did a test and build, you went through some more security, blah, blah, blah. And so, again, that whole system was done sort of ad hoc or in a what I call a serial fashion. What we're seeing happening today is that we're getting a lot more challenges to security, because not only is security an issue with the cloud and other platforms through outside attackers, we have risks like vendors who give us code in an application that we're cobbling together as part of the agile process that itself may contain bugs. So, before we were worried about DDoS attacks, web attacks, bot attacks, credential stuffing, web fraud, malware, SQL injections. We still have to worry about those things, but now these attackers are using new technologies, such as, by the way, adversarial machine learning, or AI, which we talked about last week's segment, and the fact that everything's an API-driven sort of scenario, or APIs themselves can be corrupt. Cloud computing, we can do an entire 5-week segment on cloud computing and security related to that. We all know it isn't, and how do we guard against that? And then now again, we're starting to see machine learning AI-enabled tools being applied to a lot of different scenarios. But again, do they really bring to the table the right kind of security? And of course, we have more open source and third-party tools, and they all kind of like need to work together to make sure that this threat landscape is secure. So those are the principal, challenges that I think machine learning AI blockchain can help, minimize, or I should say, make more palatable. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. If I can get this.
Hey, John, we've been seeing you the whole time. We'll maybe drop that slide in.
Oh,
we'll do a little editing. No worries. We'll put it in. I know it's a great slide because I've seen it, and you definitely jumped right in. You went knee deep on this topic. Talking about the blockchain development, DevOps cycle, the more inherent risks that are involved, and how the hackers are also utilizing AI and ML against us as we're trying to use it to better the business process on our end. Now, Joel, our BOC, our Blockchain Operations Center, which we've named Overwatch, and our goal is to give development teams the visibility that they need to accelerate the dev cycle, but also to protect the environment as a whole. Do you want to jump in and talk a little bit about this topic?
Yes, thanks, Jules. And in the same vein as what you mentioned of the risks of protecting the organization and having DevSecOps, I just want to highlight, not to do the fear factor here, but just to highlight, I know we're 3/4 into the year. Some of you may have seen this in the news where, I'm just going to bring up a couple of 2020 breaches that are pretty big and well known, like a Twitter hack that happened this year, where Twitter suffered a breach that impacted its Twitter accounts of high-profile U.S. personalities like Barack Obama, Elon Musk, Joe Biden, Bill Jr., Bill Gates, and others. And there's another one that happened in March. It's just a Marriott data breach, where the security breach impacted the data of over 5.2 million hotel guests. And according to the report, hackers obtained 2 employees' credentials, which was used to siphon off the guest data about a month before the breach was actually discovered. And on a different side of the business, Magellan Health was also struck by a ransomware attack and data breach in April of this year, which affected 365,000 patients. And an investigation revealed that the malware was used to steal an employee login credential, which was then used to leverage a phishing campaign, which eventually led to the ransomware attack. And then you guys have probably been using this on your own or in some of your businesses meetings. Zoom, as we are often are more aware of or well known now due to the COVID pandemic. With the dramatic increase in video conferencing globally, Zoom was impacted where 500,000 credentials were stolen. And these credentials ended up in the dark web for sale. And in fact, some of its credentials were even just made available for free. So given this information, and there's lots more that actually were reported out for the breaches that have occurred. Again, we're in October month right now. So to just highlight the point of the importance of having security as part of your DevOps, again, the birth of DevSecOps, as John just articulated, it's very important. And let's just take a step back and at least reflect on what's really the definition or the difference between DevOps and DevSecOps. Well, DevSecOps and DevOps, they both have similar methodologies, and they use they take advantage of the use of automation and continuous processes to establish collaborative cycles of development. The key differentiator with the DevSecOps is DevSecOps. Its goal is basically to bridge the traditional gaps between IT and security, and with a strong emphasis on ensuring that there's fast and safe delivery of code. Where prior to DevSecOps, security is somewhat minimized in that focus, which is more to have a timely delivery of the code or the product. Well, as I have seen in the past multiple decades in my IT cyber career, some of the organizations are sometimes fully head-on with running their projects using Agile, for example, and focusing on a speedy delivery to production, either because of a marketing commitment that they have provided their customers, or for a delivery of a new product, or even just a basic new feature or upgrade. Then on the 11th hour, what I've seen happen is in trying to get the security organization's approval, it was now highlighted that there's some security vulnerabilities or a gaping hole that kind of that's been identified, and it now puts an impact on the delivery of the product, the end product to the customers or to the business. Now the organization will have to end up making a big business decision on either to proceed with releasing the product, while the dev team will be actively working to resolve the patch, or V2 of the product, and resolve the gaping hole that's been identified, or maybe they would have to hold off on the product release. This obviously is a very risky decision from a customer's trust perspective, and it may have a negative potential impact on the revenue of the organization or the stock price if there's a public traded organization. So with the organizations that now have DevSecOps team, or at least the process of running a full DevSecOps organization, that they are now in a much better position to catch and resolve potential security gaps and have it resolved sooner than later.
No, fantastic, and definitely some great examples. As you have mentioned, the impact that COVID's having. All of us switching to video conferencing so quickly, not understanding the risks and some of the real world, risks that are out there, and we're going to really have to continue to focus on combating those risks, and integrating, we believe, blockchain will help us get the edge against those hackers. I did want to thank you both. This is great stuff, and I want to thank you both for joining me again today on our weekly podcast. We're going to continue to explore enterprise blockchain, AI, the impact on network and application architecture, cybersecurity. Today we dug in on DevOps and DevSecOps, and John, you did a great segue to next Friday. We're going to have a great guest. It's a cloud specialist, cloud security specialist. I don't even know if you knew that, but you actually did a great little warm up there. Again, I hope you found this talk interesting and informative. Now make sure you join us next week. We are going to have our first podcast guest. We're going to keep it a surprise for now, but we will be announcing our guest / intellectual giant later this week, and a good friend and colleague of Joel and mine. So, as always, you can learn more and or contact us at secureblocktech.com. Have a great week, and please reach out with any and all feedback, questions, or desire to join the blockchain revolution. John, Joel, thank you both.
Happy trails.
Thanks, Jules. Looking forward to the next one.